Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to another episode number 6 of the Push to Pass podcast. I am Derik Vance, and again, a huge thank you to everyone out there that is going to be tuning in live and that is going to be watching this at a later date and time. What a huge show do we have in store for you for the next hour. First, we will recap the Honda Indy 200 at Mid Ohio this past weekend. What an interesting race! What a great way! What a great race, rather. Congratulations to, as you see, the gentleman behind me, Scott McLaughlin, for picking up his second win in the 2022 IndyCar season. Also, some interesting storylines leaving Mid Ohio as well, and obviously we'll discuss them as the show unfolds. Also, two amazing guests joining us tonight. One a returning guest, one a new guest. It's a pleasure and honor to have joining us here momentarily is going to be Justin Cox of the IndyCar Boys Racing Podcast in association with Burnout Sports. Definitely go check them out, but can't wait to talk to Justin about a litany of things from his background to why he got into covering racing, to his perspective of the current 2022 IndyCar season, then obviously his take at what took place at Mid Ohio this past weekend. And then as we slowly wind down the show today, obviously Mike from BetIndyCar is going to be joining us to recap his winnings and thoughts and opinions of Mid Ohio as well. So definitely a loaded show for everyone. But as I said, let's get into to the crux first and foremost. We do need to recap what took place this past weekend at the Honda Indy 200 at Mid Ohio. Again, a lot of storylines evolving from that race, especially when it comes to Andretti Autosport. Definitely the talk of the race afterwards, to say the least, and then also to what a crummy weekend it had to be for Arrow McLaren. Both Felix Rosenquist getting knocked out early due to a blown engine, and then the mechanical issues that Pato Award faced late in the race as well. Obviously, if you were paying attention, he had one of the cars in contention to win the race. He has been on a hot streak as of late, but mechanical failure, it seemed like, was what the issue was that put his day to rest. But getting to Mid Ohio, like I said, what a season so far it has been for Team Penske in 2022. If you think back just 1 year ago in 2021, Penske was only able to grab 3 race wins: Mid Ohio, Indianapolis, and then at Bar Mardo as well. But you turn the page to 2022, and Team Penske has got to be on a roll, collecting wins at St. Petersburg, Texas, Long Beach, Belle Isle, Road America, and now with Scott McLaughlin's win on Sunday at the Honda 200 at Mid Ohio. That gives Team Penske, for everyone keeping track at home, 6 wins on this 2022 season. On a day when virtually every driver in the field left the track with a story to tell, it was McLaughlin who brought home Team Penske's 6th win in 2022 when he held off reigning IndyCar Series champion Alex Palou in the number 10 NTT Data Chip Ganassi Racing Honda over the final 17 laps, beating him to the finish line by a 0.55 seconds. The Sunday's finish was the second time this season these two drivers have finished first and second in that order. If you remember back, the first was at the season opener at St. Pete when McLaughlin won his first series race. That gap in the end was just 0.5 seconds, and Palou was satisfied with the second place finish after being edged out of the Fast 6 in qualifying on Saturday. Palou rose to fourth in the NTT IndyCar Series standings, which we'll get to here momentarily. He is just now 35 points back of the leader. McLaughlin jumped 2 positions, talking about the standings, to seventh, just 69 points back of current series leader Marcus Ericsson, and also don't forget the winner of the Indianapolis 500. To quote Palou here a little bit, it was so close. Palou said, "Our car was so fast, we just missed it by this much. Amazing strategy, amazing pit stops, just super happy." McLaughlin's third podium of the season and Palou's fourth allowed them to close in on the NTT IndyCar Series championship. Marcus Ericsson held his points lead with a sixth place finish in the number 8 Ridgeline Lubricants Honda, but he is now just 20 points ahead of Willpower. Joseph Newgarden, who finished seventh, is third, 34 points back. Credit to McLaughlin, obviously, and the number 3 team, who executed their race flawlessly, but they also caught a massive break when a caution was needed to retrieve Kyle Kirkwood's car, which was right in the middle of the pit window, and race control opted to wait until the 3 cars had yet to stop. The yellow finally waved as McLaughlin exited the pits in the lead, and eliminated any vulnerability out on his lap. The call caused some charging amongst some others in the top 10. Quote from McLaughlin: "This is amazing. I'm really proud of the Team Penske crew. The car gave me what was a little hard to drive toward the end. I would love to make it a little easier for myself, but I am super proud of them. It was tough." And McLaughlin talking about spending the afternoon with Alex Palou in his rearview mirror. "You're thinking about fuel at the end of the race, but thankfully Chevy gave us great fuel mileage and drivability off the restarts that allowed me to get a bit of a gap from Palou." Following McLaughlin, the standout driver of the day, if you watch the race, belonged to the car just behind him in third, the 2014 NTT IndyCar Series champion Willpower, who rallied from a 21st starting spot and in lap 1 spun in turn 9 to finish in the 4th place podium in the season for the number 12 Verizon Team Penske Chevrolet. "Amazing day," he said. "I said it in a strategy meeting, which I have a few times this year after we've qualified badly. A top 10 would be great," said Power. "Some good restarts, good exchanges, good pit stops, good strategy, and a great job by the team. Starting from the back is certainly more entertaining than leading from the front. Stoked." Ed Carpenter Racing's Renus VK finished fourth in the number 21 Bitcoin racing team with Bittnell Chevrolet. His only complaint afterwards about being what he thought was some overly boisterous driving from Willpower. Marcus Ericsson and Joseph Newgarden, meanwhile, both salvaged a decent points haul after disappointing qualifying performances and finished 6th and 7th, respectively. And 6-time Mid-Ohio race winner Scott Dixon rounded out the top 5 in the number 9 PCN Bank Chip Ganassi Honda. "Race control yellow happens, but when they're waiting, that's kind of new," said Scott Dixon. "Had the caution happened when it should have, I think we would have come out in front. Today, we looked like a IMSR race. I'm fine with that, but we need to be more consistent. I think race control needs to work out where they want us to be." The first stoppage came on lap 1 after a wave-off start, and then second was in lap 10 for a mechanical failure on the aforementioned number 7 Vice Aero McLaren SP Chevrolet of Felix Rosenquist, who at the time was running third when his car started hitting the rev limiter in turn 2 and then bellowed smoke. Quote from Rosenquist: "I came out of turn 2 and felt like I was on pit limiter. Then it got going again after I pulled the clutch. And then in the straight, it just died. I think we had a mega weekend going. We were off strategy on the black tires. I moved up from 4th to 3rd It's a big loss for us today. I felt like we were sailing out there. We showed that we are up there and fighting for it. We just have to come back and do it again. It was an unforgettable day for NTT P1 award winner Pato O'Ward, who started first and led the first 28 laps in the number 5 Arrow McLaren SP Chevrolet. However, on lap 30, O'Ward began reporting power issues on his car. By lap 54, O'Ward's car had completely lost power as it stalled at the end of the pit lane. His Arrow McLaren SP team pushed his car back to the pit box, where O'Ward exited and ended the streak of the Mid-Ohio pole sitters, winning the race at 3. Ward's misfortune allowed McLaughlin, who started second, to inherit the lead during a round of green flag pit stops on lap 31. Apparently, it was something fuel delivery-wise, Pato said. It kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then it failed. It's a bummer, man. It's just frustrating. We've thrown away an easy podium. We had a lot of pace. The car was really put together today. As an awful day that it was for Arrow McLaren, it may have been a worse day for Andretti Autosport. Alexander Rossi and Roman Grosjean came together twice in 2 laps, the second one being amplified by Rossi's steering wheel being knocked out of his hands mid-corner, sending him wide and putting Grosjean into the dirt. The Frenchman was left down a lap. Quote, "It was a racing incident," said Rossi. "He was on the softer tire, and I was probably going to get around me. And he was probably going to get around me. And he likes to do it fast and early. Had some understeering there, and it's unfortunate to have contact with a teammate." That we'll talk more about the Andretti Autosports saga that is going on from Mid-Ohio here momentarily. But the NTT IndyCar Series does take this weekend off before what a stretch they have coming up, starting in Toronto for the first time in 3 years, obviously due to the COVID pandemic. The Honda Indy Toronto will take place Sunday, July 17th at 3 p.m. Eastern, and you can catch that, as always, on Peacock Premium and the IndyCar Radio Network. Before we get to our first guest, who I see has joined us, let's hear from some of the drivers that did participate in this past weekend's Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio.
I think the PNC bag number 9 had good pace. It was just a frustrating day. You know, the race control kind of yellow happens, but now they're waiting. Like, that's something new, which for us put us in a tricky situation. Had the caution gone when it should have, I think we would have come out in the front because we put it at the perfect time. And then we were just paired at the wrong place. After that caution, we were on blacks. Everybody around us was on reds. And then, I think the PNC bag number 9 had good pace.
All right, so race here in Mid-Ohio. The ridge line, lubricants Honda was good out there. We were a bit disappointed with yesterday's qualifying, so had a bit of work to do today. But we went into the race with a mindset to try and finish between P5 and P8. It would have been a good day for the championship, and that's exactly what we did with the P6 finish. So great job by the whole team, by the whole crew. Good pit stop strategy, so happy with that. Obviously we want to win, but today was one of those days that's important for the championship. So try again in a couple of weeks in Toronto.
All right, we just finished the race there, and it is our first top 10 finish. I'm really happy with the P9 there. We started P8, and all the yellow flags were like the worst thing that could have happened to us, and we still managed to get a P9 out of that. We had really good racing with veterans. I went inside and outside of Pagano and Harvey, and then was behind Castro Neves. It was really cool to see the things that he was doing. Like some drivers, they would hit a bit of dust on the next corner, and you would just see Castro Neves immediately just take a different line to not hit the dust. So it's just really cool to see those reactions from a veteran. But overall, I'm really happy with that race. So I'll see you guys at the streets of Toronto.
Good.
Solid day for us. Best road course finish, most competitive race that I've had. So I feel like our approach this morning to warm up and to give me a balance that I was looking for, maybe not so concerned about what my teammates were running, really served me well. Most competitive I've been, and certainly look forward to building on that.
So yes, that is the take from some of the drivers that took part in this past weekend there at Mid Ohio. And like I said, I do see that our first guest of the evening is here with us. You have no idea how extremely honored I am to have the one, the only Justin Cox joining us. He is a man of many hats, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is he the co-host of Indy Boys podcast, but he is also a part of Burnout Sports as well, which is a new network, new idea concept starting up. Definitely check that out. But Justin, first and foremost, huge thank you for carving out some time out of your busy schedule to join us here on this Thursday. For people that are unaware of who you are, what you do, it's unfortunate that they don't know. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Justin Cox, and as I had a great introduction, I'm a part of the Indy Boys Racing podcast with Tristan and Daniel, and basically, I'm more of like a graphic designer, editor type thing for our whole broadcast and all that stuff, and taking pictures and etc. when we're at tracks, and I have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I'm 22. I come from Anderson, Indiana, and hence the name Indy Boys. We're all from Indiana, but yeah, so that's pretty much all there is to say about me. So.
You are absolutely too modest, young man. You are absolutely too modest. But you being the young age that you are, the whippersnapper, I guess I should say. What got you? I know you have a huge racing background. I think your bio on Twitter may not have used it as an intro. It explains it. Motorsports are my life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get wrapped up into motorsports, and then how did you put two and two together, being a motorsports fanatic that you are, and then in journalism as well?
So really, when I was younger, my family was really big into NASCAR. I originally was like a really, really big NASCAR fan growing up. Dale Earnhardt Jr. And then when Denny Hamlin came along, as you can see the Denny Hamlin flag right there, Denny Hamlin became my favorite driver once Junior retired. So my family really is what got me into racing. I never really got into IndyCar until about 2018 because I don't know. I just never really paid that much attention to open wheel racing. I paid attention to F1 a lot when I was younger, like 2012, 2014, when Sebastian Vettel was on his tear and everything. And so really, but yeah, like IndyCar, since that's kind of what we're going to discuss, I'll talk about that. I never really got into it until 2018, and I'm so glad I did. And it's probably, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best motorsports out right now with racing. It just doesn't have that mainstream love that F1 and NASCAR really do right now. So, and I wish it did. I love IndyCar. So, but yeah,
I think you're absolutely spot on when it comes to the eyeballs. I think that the IndyCar deserves. They're not getting the recognition that they do. I think this season especially has been so competitive. And I know we'll talk about that here in a moment, but we're not as different as you may seem. I know our hair may be different and our age may be different a little bit. But this is only my second year covering IndyCar.
Oh wow!
So our paths aren't as different as what they may seem. I was checking out some of you and your crew's work today, and I love the video that you guys did. This past May. Trying to get all of these street signs, which I see that you guys failed. You guys failed miserably on.
Yeah, very bad, very bad.
But it all had to pay off because who would have thought if that wasn't planned? Running into one of all of your three sounds like favorite driver, and I'm starting to grow very fond of him as well. David Malukas.
Yeah, so that video was literally the funnest thing I've ever done. Like we set it up with David. It was set up that we ran into him. Okay, I'll tell you that now. It was set up that we ran into him. It was actually his idea because we were talking to him after one of the practice days, I believe, and we were back by his hauler talking to him, and we were telling him about the idea of going downtown and doing the street sign idea, and he was like, you know, it'd be funny. It'd be really funny if I was just sitting in the Five Guys eating a cheeseburger, and all of a sudden I'm just there. And we were like, I mean, we can get it set up. We're doing it here soon, and we got it set up. And he came through and did it. We wanted to kind of have him for the whole video, and he wanted to do the whole video, but I think he had a bunch of media stuff going on that day. It was, I think, the Monday before the 500, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit of time since then, and a lot of things have happened. But but yeah, so that is probably one of my favorite videos I've made with anybody, honestly. So
Yeah, I actually was watching that today, and yeah, because I was mightily disappointed that there was only what I think 11 or 12 signs that were taken in that time period. But you know, who can say though they walked around Indianapolis with a IndyCar driver? I mean, that's
true.
Nobody else can say that.
Only Indy boys can.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the season so far. I know we're in the second half of the year this past weekend at Mid Ohio, but taking a look at the first half, I think it's been one hell of a roller coaster, and I think we still got a lot more chapters of this story to be written yet. But I want to hear your thoughts and opinions about what you've seen and what you've witnessed here the first half of this exciting 2022 season.
Well, comparing IndyCar to some of the other motorsport series right now, I believe IndyCar has not had a bad race yet. Me and Tristan and Daniel, we all say that all the time. We don't think IndyCar has had a bad race yet. And I hope I don't jinx it, knock on wood, but I hope I don't jinx it. But I sincerely don't think IndyCar's had a bad race yet. Texas, Road America is one of my favorite races of the season so far. IMS road course, because that was that you didn't know what was gonna happen next at the IMS road course. There was just so much happening there because it was raining on one end of the track and then it wasn't raining on the other end of the track, and it's just crazy. And IndyCar has had the best season in a long time. It's been the best season for IndyCar in a long time, in my opinion.
You know, like I mentioned to open it up, it has been one of the more competitive seasons, I believe, in some time. And I think, a storyline coming into this would be, could Penske resurrect the miserable 2021 that they had with only getting 3 wins? Well, doubling that and getting 6. I think, already. Yeah. And, the second half of the year, a lot of people talk about it sets up for Joseph Newgarden, and I think they're absolutely right. But another storyline coming in was the impressive rookie class. We weren't sure what we were going to get, but so far, I don't think it's disappointed.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Christian Lundgaard has, I don't know what's going on with Rahal Letterman Lane again. They've kind of fallen off, in my opinion, fallen off a little bit since the 500. Like, they haven't been really the same that they were before the 500. And the 500 was kind of their demise, in my opinion. But like HMD and Dale Coyne, they're insane right now because David just got a P9, I believe, top 10 at Mid Ohio, and he might take home. I don't know. Like, this whole rookie class this year is insane with Callum Malott, Christian Lundgaard, Kyle Kirkwood, David. All of them are like top tier drivers, and I believe that they're all going to be stars. If at least Callum may not, if he goes back to F1 or something, but I believe all of them are going to be stars in IndyCar one day, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're definitely on their way. So you're right on. You're spot on with that. And one thing I want to mention about Callum Ilott, and I was able to interview him for a few minutes in the garage, and I had to compliment him because think about it, he in June Coast Racing is a 1-car team. And the success that he is having with just 1 car, and the only data, the only feel for the car he has and his engineers have is what he relays to them. That's got to be impressive, doing what he's doing, being competitive week in and week out with just 1 car.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, that just shows you how talented Callum is, like, and how adaptable he is as well. Because that's the main thing as a racing driver. You need to be adaptable. If you can't be adaptable, you're probably not going to make it as a racing driver. Because if you can't make a tight car go fast, you're not going to be fast. If you can't make a loose car go fast, you can't be fast. Like, it's just how it is as a racing driver. And Callum is the perfect example for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it would be interesting to see if he is able with Juncos Hollander Racing
Mhm.
next year. If one he is able to stay in IndyCar, and I know there's been chatter about adding a second car, so
Mhm.
that's going to be interesting as
Mhm.
well. Speaking of adding a extra car, the talk around Arrow McLaren SP and what they're doing in 2023 is just it's mind blowing. The names that we're hearing for that third car, we don't know. Well, all we do know rather is that Felix Rosenquist is going to be in the Arrow McLaren camp. Now, where he ends up, I don't even think he knows at this point. He, like I said, the only thing that's in concrete is that he is going to be with Arrow McLaren in 2023 and
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah, I personally I hope Felix is back in IndyCar, but in my opinion, I think it's just gonna depend on his actual finishes throughout the rest of the season. And Arrow kind of let him down at Mid Ohio with the mechanical failure. I can't really blame it; just was a mechanical failure. You can't really blame anybody, but like it's just gonna depend on his finishes for the rest of the season. And if he ends up in Formula E, I hope maybe at some point, if he's finishing good over there, maybe they bring him back. Because personally, I kind of like Felix Rosenquist. He's a very good driver, very talented driver. He's phenomenal qualifier, if I must say that. But I don't know. I just don't think he's ever necessarily had the right people around him since he's been in IndyCar. Um, and that's weird to say. I just don't think he's ever had the correct camp, because having the right people around you can make you a better driver. And I don't know if he's necessarily had that, because you see what when he was in the 10, he only got one win at Road America, I believe. His only win so far, correct? If I'm correct. Um but yeah, I think that he just never really had the people around him to make him great, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. I would love to see Felix back in the under or behind the wheel of that number 7 Arrow McLaren next year. I think he's done everything being that he can control
Yeah.
to warrant a ride for next year, and
Mhm.
I definitely hope that that it's behind that number 7 Arrow McLaren. If it's not,
Mhm.
then Zach Brown and company is going to have some decisions to make for that car next year. We already know that Pato Award is in the fold. We'll talk about him and his week, because I think it's a great transition to Mid Ohio. Actually, you brought this up, so kudos to you. And
I appreciate it.
Pato Award is under contract next year as well. And then Alexander Rossi, what a weekend I think he and the Andretti Autosports boys
Ooh.
had over there. Yeah, we'll bring that up here too. But moving on, transitioning to Mid Ohio, interesting race. I think everybody thought after qualifying that Pato was going to be one tough SOB to beat. But as you said, unfortunately, Arrow McLaren had a shitty, to say the least,
Yeah.
weekend with Felix, blowing up in smoke early in the race, and then Pato Award gradually over time had the best car by far. I think that's unarguable. But over time, over laps, lost power, and we were listening to him on the radio today with the IndyCar highlights, and he was pretty animated on the radio there, talking about losing power. But Mid Ohio as a whole, I want to get your thoughts, your insight on that, and then the two storylines coming from that: the problems at Arrow McLaren with both their cars, and then the fallout from the Andretti Autosport boys.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we were actually listening to Pato Scanner live when at the track, and Tristan died laughing when he heard how, like, I mean, not in a bad way. He wasn't trying to be like mean about it or nothing, but like he just died laughing about how he like Pato was reacting to the car giving up, basically. But I do think Pato easily could have had that race won. He was my pick actually to win the race. But yeah, I feel sorry for Aaron McLaren. So hopefully they can bounce back at Toronto. And is it next week? Next weekend? Yeah, next weekend. Yeah, that's right. Next weekend at Toronto. So I would love to see Pato back up on top, and Pato or even Felix. So, but the Andretti Fallout boycast. That was insane. I was not expecting that. So I believe that Grosjean, it wasn't really. It was Rossi that kind of initiated everything a little bit, because Rossi just ran him wide. They collected each other and went off into the grass, and then Grosjean contacted the wall just a slight bit. And I hate it for Grosjean, because Grosjean's mindset is an F1 mindset still, in my opinion, because he's a very aggressive driver around his teammates, and he doesn't take any prisoners, basically. And he's just got an F1 mindset. And when it comes to racing anybody, he's going to race them hard. And that's what sucks, because at the end there, when he was coming back and turned, I believe Herta, that's where you could definitely see that he was thinking that way. And Herta was very animated as well too. And let's just say that. But yeah, no, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen from a team since I've been watching racing in general. So that's my take on it. And then I'm pretty sure the only person that really didn't have beef with anybody was Devlin, but I think even Devlin was kind of upset with someone. So I can't remember exactly who. It might have been Grosjean. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, if you get the opportunity and you go to the IndyCar at YouTube, they have Grosjean's radio on there. So if you've not heard that yet, yeah, go and listen to that. And I think you're absolutely right there towards the end with Devlin, because Grosjean was down a lap, if memory serves me correctly, and his job at that point in time was to protect his teammate, which was in front of him, which I believe was Devlin. So yeah, go back and listen to Grosjean's radio when Rossi hits him. Yeah, he's not a happy camper.
Not a happy camper,
to say the least. Yeah, if you and your boys thought that Pato was animated on the radio, just wait till you listen to Grosjean. It's not even in comparison. But I thought someone else that had a great day at Mid Ohio, Will Power. He gets a unfortunate penalty during qualifying, has to start at the back of the pack, and just slowly but surely works his way up there to a top 10 finish.
Well, let's not forget, he also did spin at the beginning of the race. And he still came back and finished podium, I believe, didn't he? Wasn't it podium?
Let me go back here real quick. I want to say he was he third? Did he end up third? Was it McLaughlin, Palou, Power, I believe, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, he was podium. That's right. So Luke Edwards, he's on the IndyCar show on Burnout Sports. So he literally predicted this whole weekend perfectly. He predicted that McLaughlin's going to hold on the win. Will Power's going to have a great day. And then I believe he also said that David was going to be the highest finishing rookie, which, yeah, he literally hit everything on the nose in their episode of the IndyCar show. And when we realized what was happening, like, we were making fun of Tony because Tony's picks were like all over the place compared to what Luke had said. So that was pretty funny. But yeah.
I actually first started the weekend putting money on Will Power, and then the penalty, I was like, you know what? Yeah, there's no way at this track. That's too many passes. There's absolutely no way he's going to win that. So I cashed that out and just put it on Pato after watching what he did on Saturday. I felt great going into Sunday up until I heard on the radio when he's screaming, "I have no power." I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
You're like, of course, the weekend I put my money on Pato. Of all weekends, that's when it happens. Like,
yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
unfortunate.
The last few minutes that we have, Justin, I want you to talk a little bit about the podcast that you and your crew do. Where can people find it? What the content's about, and what days you guys do it on, and things of that nature.
Okay, so the Indie Boys Racing Podcast, you can find it on YouTube, Apple Music, or Apple Podcast, not music, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, or Google Podcast, anywhere that you can find a podcast, it's on there. So we record on Mondays, but they go up on Thursdays at 7 p.m., which actually we just released the episode for episode 26 tonight, as we're recording this right now. But the podcast, we started off with Tristan. It was more of a project for Tristan's one of his classes, and then Tristan was like, maybe we should just try to get a driver on the show. And Daniel actually had talked to David a lot before, because Daniel has always like kind of watched IndyCar, and he had contacted with David Malukas a lot before. So he had asked David Malukas way in the past if they ever started a podcast, if he'd ever come on, and he followed through with this promise. So that was pretty cool. But after then we kind of realized like, hey, this could be a thing. Like we could do this and this could be pretty fun. But yeah, like it's been great. This is really kind of what's been helping me get into covering racing and stuff like that. Me, Daniel, and Tristan, all three of us covering racing, and it's been a great time. And I have to shout out Burnout Sports, because after I think 5 or 6 episodes, they actually are the reason we kind of are getting to where we are now and doing all the stuff we can. So I really have to shout them out and praise for them. So I really appreciate them. But yeah, that's pretty much all of us. We talk about F1, NASCAR, IndyCar. Mainly we talk about like IMSA stuff and like World of Outlaws, and I guess like F2 and other stuff, ARCA series, NASCAR, like related lower series basically after that. Just kind of on and off, but we mainly focus on NASCAR, F1, and IndyCar. So that's the Indie Boys Racing Podcast, I have to believe, though. So yeah.
So was this your first year covering the month of May? And the reason why I asked that is I can now remember passing you in the halls a few times, because you had a nice collared blue shirt on. It may have been your church clothes, but I do remember passing you a few times and was like, man, if I was young and I could have hair like that, the possibilities would be endless. But was this your first year being able to cover the month of May out at the Speedway? And then I know we have an event coming up at the end of the month that I would imagine you guys will be at. And then are you guys going to make the short trip down to Nashville in August?
We may go to Nashville. We're not sure yet. We're getting everything worked out. We may be at Nashville. I may be at Iowa as well. I don't know about. I think Tristan's going to be in Las Vegas that weekend, so I may just be in Iowa. But that was actually our first ever credentialed event. So that's what was crazy. We didn't actually expect for it to happen, because we're so new, and like we know Tony was gonna get it because Tony's Tony, and but we really didn't expect to get the credential that we did, and we did, and it's kind of been going on after that, and it was actually such a eye-opening experience, because I've learned so much, especially from Tony. Just kind of seeing how he gets around the paddock and talks to people and stuff like that. And then like just kind of learning on my own, like with like pictures and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like that was insane. I did not think we were going to be able to cover the Indy 500 or in the Indy GP as our first ever event, but it was. So yeah, but we will be at the Brickyard as well. And at the end of August or July, my fault, at the end of July. So yeah.
See, another thing that we have in common, I have been able to be credentialed for 2 events last year in Nashville and the month of May. And funny how Ericsson wins both of them.
Hey, you might be Ericsson's good luck charm. You need to talk to him about that.
Yeah. And if you decide, if you decide you just want to go down to Nashville by yourself, I am going down Thursday night, so you're more than welcome. If you need a ride, you're more than welcome to, if that's something you choose to do.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to tell the listeners where they can find you at on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at confirmed_J, the flip of my Twitter. And then Twitter's on the screen right now. Our YouTube at Indy Boys Racing Podcast. Everything else is Indy Boys Podcast on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I really have to say, honestly. Like, I guess I'm still new to this, so I'm still getting used to it. So
That's all right.
Yeah.
You'll find your footing.
Yeah.
Should people expect more videos up on YouTube coming up?
Oh yes, actually, tomorrow at 7, as we're recording this, Friday tomorrow, I actually have a F122 My Team coming out. We're starting to kind of branch out, not just the podcast on our YouTube channel. We're starting to do our own little mini series on our YouTube, kind of get some outside footage and outside content coming in. And Tristan, I believe, is going to be starting doing something on Mondays called Mondays with Tristan. He's going to be talking like stories, playing old like racing games, such like that. So yeah, I mean, we're trying to expand. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to expand, find our horizons, see where we fit in at, basically. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Hey, that's all you can do. And let me tell you, looking at your content that you and the other two have put out, kudos to all of you for just dipping your toe into this as I am as well. The stuff that you guys have done, the coverage you have given IndyCar is out of this world. So commend you, all three of you. Definitely look forward to meeting up at IMS at the end of the month. And then hopefully we'll run into each other something down in Nashville. So, Justin, again, huge thank you for joining us. And again, people that want to follow you, your crew on the podcast, social media, where can they find you?
All right, they're both right here on the screen, as you can see. J_confirmed at Indy Boys Podcast. Indy Boys Podcast on everything. J_confirmed Twitter. Confirmed_J on Instagram. I'm sure if you type it in the same way, it should pop up either way. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I appreciate you for having me on. This has been pretty fun. I like getting to talk about racing a lot. I like kind of guest starring on shows, so this is kind of fun. Have me on anytime. I'm down, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what we can do here coming up. I know we got a busy couple weeks. Toronto, double at Iowa, and then off to Indy. So definitely busy times for sure. But Justin, again, huge thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing what you and your crew have in store for the rest of the year, and we'll talk down the road.
All right, appreciate you. Make sure you hit us up or talk to one of us when we get to IMS at the end of July. So, and we can meet up, do something maybe. So yeah, I'm down.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. All right, sounds good.
Yep. Out. Everybody go follow Justin there on social media. Go follow him and his crew and the podcast that they have going on because it's definitely a something to follow and keep your eye on there for sure. So I do see that our next guest, as we jump from one to the other, I'm sure this next guy, very familiar with the show, probably familiar with the podcast that we were just talking about as well. As you see, Mike from BetIndyCar is back with us, back from vacation, relaxed and ready to go because we got a huge stretch of IndyCar coming up after this weekend. But Mike, first and foremost, as always, huge thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I know you're back at the home studio there to join us. But what a wild race, I think, to say the least, at Mid-Ohio this weekend. Going into it on Sunday, especially, we thought Pato O'Ward was going to be the car to beat, but unfortunately, due to mechanical failure, it just wasn't his day. Scott McLaughlin again comes up with race win number 2. So tell us a little bit about how your race weekend went and things like that.
Yeah, man, how's it going? Good to be back. Man, those Indy boys, I like what those guys do. They make me feel old, though, for sure, man. But those are some fun guys. They got a lot of good content. So, yeah, man, crazy week, wild race. Did not handicap that. That was not what we expected. So when things don't go the way I handicap them, and the way the stats and the information and what and frankly, what all the drivers were saying beforehand. Oh yeah, we don't expect any cautions, straightforward 2-stop race, and then God, lap 1, willpower spins, and then all hell breaks loose. So from a betting perspective, for me, and for what I put out there on the betting card, it was okay. It was a slight loss for me. I missed obviously on the qualifying bets, the pre qualifying bets. Those bets had Power and Newgarden. Obviously, Power, who we know is super fast. Probably if he would have been on the pole, he probably would have ran away with the thing. But he screwed up in qualifying. Didn't qualify well. So didn't have any good numbers heading into the race. And then I was heavily invested in Mr. Rosenquist. So Felix Rosenquist was somebody I had top 3, top 5. I had him in a matchup against Newgarden due to track position. And obviously his engine blew up, and as did those bets catch on fire and blow up in my face. But it wasn't terrible. I had a nice bet on top 3 on Palou. Palou's my new Dixon. I've kind of tried to. I was a little late getting off of Dixon and onto Palou last year. That was kind of one of my things that wasn't going to screw up this year. Palou top 3, top 5 bets have been profitable for the year. So had Palou top 3. I always say split your bet when you pick a winner. So I had Power as well, top 3. So I had a portion of my Power bet top 3. So that saved me a little bit. Didn't have any Scotty Mac. Didn't have any Pato before the race. So and the other big bet I had, which is this is why betting in IndyCar is great. I had a big bet on Simona Di Silvestre versus Tatiana Calderon. So I don't think I saw either of them on my TV broadcast while watching the race. So I stared at the app and stared at the side of the TV trying to figure out what the hell those two girls were doing. And at times they were flip-flopping on pit sequences and stuff. So it was nice to see Simona pull that out. I was on the losing end of a Kellett over Jimmy Johnson bet. Of course, Jimmy Johnson decides to have his best street course finish of the year just by kind of chilling in the back is kind of what I saw. So yeah, from a gambling standpoint, I mean, it was fun. I had that Power bet. I thought that bet, if you heard me talk on, we had a Twitter Spaces. We're going to start doing some Twitter Spaces before the race on Sunday. I pretty much told Tony that I was ready to throw my Power bet in the trash, and it was exciting to watch Power. And then when he spun, I'm glad it was digital and not an actual ticket, because I would have chucked that bad boy into the trash. But Power just mows his way through the field, and with 15 laps left, I'm sitting there watching the race thinking, oh my God, I got a 14-1 big Power ticket here. There's a chance I cash this thing. And then he kind of fizzled there at the end, ran out of push to pass, and I think he was happy to take his podium finish and his points. So a small loss, but a ton of fun, and that's what it's all about for me. This is for fun. It adds a little spice to the race, and I like looking at the information. But yeah, not what we expected. It wasn't the no caution race that we thought. The Andretti boys took care of all that.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on that here in a moment too. Curious to hear what you think about what's going on over Andretti Autosport. To be a fly on the wall Sunday in that hauler after the race. But yeah, Saturday, I put a bet on Power, and then Friday, excuse me. I put a bet on Power. I told you about that, and then Saturday, as soon as I seen what took place, the mishap that he had there, I was like, "There's no way he's going to be at the back. There's absolutely no way. That's too many passes." So I ended up pulling that, put it on Pato. I felt great until I heard about lap 30 when I heard him scream on the radio, "He's losing power." I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be absolutely kidding me. He had the dominant car throughout the first sections of that race for sure. And then, everybody's heart had to sink that put money on Pato when he come across the radio and said he was losing power. But I can't imagine the thoughts and the feelings you were having, as you said, watching Power just zigzag his way through the field, getting up to the top 10, top 5. I can't imagine how crazy you were probably going.
Yeah, it makes it more interesting. That's what I keep telling people that ask me about betting on IndyCar. It makes it more interesting. I think it does for all sports. You get a little more skin in the game. And then look, you can also I enjoy doing the research. I enjoy looking for good numbers, and I learned that I enjoyed that side of the gambling part of it as well. And hopefully I can teach some people about that. But just if you know nothing about it and you pull people out of a hat and you have a driver to root for with $10 in a blind pool, like, that also, I think that adds an extra element. And it's what I think IndyCar needs to promote more to grow the sport, just like they're doing with football, with golf, with, pretty much every major sport out there is a big proponent of sports wagering.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and we've talked about this on numerous occasions. We talk about the partnership right before the 500 with Caesars and IMS. So yeah, definitely need to get more eyes on it, and hopefully being able to bet a little more absolutely does that. But aside from that, I think one of the big storylines coming out of Mid Ohio. Not only was it the troubles that Arrow McLaren had, I think that's just a hiccup. I think they'll figure those out. But Andretti Autosports, wow, what a storyline that was. You have outgoing Alexander Rossi, seemingly taking out Roman Grosjean. Grosjean was quite animated on the radio, if you haven't caught that yet. And then a couple more skirmishes that they had throughout the race as well. Curious to get your thoughts on that long term.
Yeah, look, for me, like, I'm the IndyCar betting guy, right? So what I'm looking at it from is the gambling angle. Like, how can I make money off of this? So, if I'm a sports book and I'm paying attention to IndyCar, like, you better believe, like, I'm putting out a matchup bet, Grosjean versus Rossi there, and create some interest like that. But, I'm going to watch and listen and see from the gambling side of things, like, I wonder if, Rossi's on his way out, maybe there's an opportunity to fade him. He might be on Andretti's crap list there. And just see, see and listen to what the drivers say, and maybe see if it's going to affect some of their performance, or maybe there's going to be some team rules set in place. IndyCar's not one for the F1, team orders deal. But that's something I know guys in F1 make money on. When they know guys have team orders to stand down, you can find some gambling angles to bet matchup bets or stuff like that. That's offered for betting purposes, and you can make some money off of that. So that's what I'll be looking for. I don't care that they can. I think it's great for the series. Have a little rivalry, get a little attention. Rossi on his way out. Grosjean, I think, sticks his elbows out a little too much on the track in IndyCar, and I from a gambling perspective, I made some money on that betting against him after he took himself out of a couple races. So that's my angle. That's what I care about, is how can I pad the bankroll a little bit by making some money off of their turmoil. So I'll watch and listen to what guys like you guys and some of the other news media people have to say about it, and see if it affects any of their performance or anything else comes out of it, or we can find an angle to bet on it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right when you say it's going to be worth watching going forward, especially the betting aspect, because that they're going to have matchups like you said with Rossi and with Grosjean and things of that nature. So I think it's definitely going to be worth watching. Moving on from Mid Ohio, I know we're still a week out from Toronto. First question I have, I know the lines probably won't come out till probably a week from today or so. Is Toronto going to be a hard race to cap, just for the simple fact that it's been, I think, 3 years or so since IndyCar has been there last? So how tough is that going to make capping this race next weekend?
A lot tougher, especially, we've had it wouldn't be if we haven't had car changes. So obviously DW12 is gone. They got the aero screen on there. Like the aero packages are different. So you really can't go back and look at some past Toronto results, maybe a little bit, but honestly, the cars are different. They're set up differently. You got different aero packages. So no, this is going to make it really difficult. And for me, that's going to more than likely shy me away from, a lot of, if any, pre-qualifying bets. You can draw on some of the other street courses that are similar. It's kind of like in golf, they use similar courses. There's courses that are set up similarly at similar yardages, same kind of deal. St. Pete might be one that you eyeball to match up with Toronto. I'm not even sure. I haven't even looked into if they're changing the circuit or if it's just the same old school Toronto circuit. So that's something. So look, it's all about watching, paying attention, listening to what the drivers have to say. The drivers will give you hints like, hey, this is just like street course X, and then maybe I can look to some history in there and see if we can get a good number. But, we know the guys are going to be fast. It'll all about be, if they drop another power, double-digit pre-qualifying number, I'll bite on that because, power is the greatest qualifier in Indy history, or right up, top three. Or active driver. So, it'll be about what the numbers are, what the books put out there. Sports books aren't going to have any history either. So you're playing on a kind of the same playing field as they are. So maybe just paying attention and listening to the drivers and what they have to say on their pre-track walks and maybe after practice one. So I might wait to see some practice times and see what the books post after practice times. Usually the lines don't move too much after practice times unless somebody out of the blue, comes out of nowhere and posts the P1, P2 time. So, so that's basically how I'm looking at that. There may be some angles. We'll have to see, what the sports books put out there pre-qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see what those lines are. One last question that I have, lack of data, as you said, not being at this course for 3 years, car being different, different drivers, etc. Are you looking at maybe some of the past winners as to, bets for next week when you do your research, or is that kind of out the window, as you said, with everything else?
I will glance at that on normal circumstances. But honestly, no, I'm looking more at times, at qualifying, at race, whatever happened during the race. Like maybe for next year, I've had a little note about Award's time, at Mid Ohio and the fact that his car blew up on him and, or had a computer issue. Same thing for Rosenquist. Like those are guys that I'll probably be back on next year if a big number gets dropped on them pre-qualifying just based on what happened, because I know that it really had nothing to do with, they had speed on that track on Mid Ohio. They know that track well. It just, they had a freak issue happen with you don't see that happen too often. So you can take advantage of little things like that. So I don't really look back to past winners too much. I probably won't. I'll glance at it for Toronto just for some background information, but no, I'll take more stock in the practice times and what I hear the drivers themselves saying about the track or about any changes made or any of that stuff before I'm laying any money down.
Mike, can't wait to hear what you have to say next week going into Toronto. I know you'll be doing your due diligence and research this week, and then I know you'll have the lines, well, normally by this time when we go live on Thursday. So can't wait to hear what you have to say about going up to Toronto this weekend, or next weekend, excuse me. Mike, for people that don't follow you on social media already, you know what? Two things. One, that's a shame on them because they'd be able to take summer vacations and at least pay for gas if they've been listening to you. But if they want to start listening to you, following you on social media, where can you be found at?
Yeah, hopefully maybe gas needs to come down. We'll see how far they want to go. But at Indy_bet is where I'm at on Twitter. Everything I'm betting, I put up there. It's all free. You can decide what you want to do with it, with the information. So so that's where you'll find me. That's where I'll be putting stuff out. And then every now and then you can follow the at Burnout Bets handle as well. I'll do some stuff with those guys, but usually both are tagged. So at Indy_bets, where to find me.
Good stuff. And then also, too, I know you mentioned you're going to be doing some more Twitter Spaces as well, correct?
Yeah, we started with the Burnout Bets folks. We started dabbling in that just so we can react a little bit quicker and get information out there. The IndyCar lines, they're only up for a couple days, unfortunately. Maybe in the future, when we start to get lines like NASCAR and F1 do, and Monday, we'll have time to do, better shows for the gambling aspect of things, which I'm hoping that, is in the coming years. But as for right now, we try doing the Twitter Spaces thing post qualifying. And then right before the race, a couple hours before the race, which is when most people are, looking to make some bets on the sports books before they sit down to, have their beer and nachos and watch the race and put a little skin in the game.
Good stuff. Mike, again, huge thank you for joining us. I know we are off this week, but the next few race weekends, we're definitely going to hit it hard for sure. Can't wait to hear what you got for us next week at Toronto. So we'll talk again in about a week or so. We'll see you next week.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Thank you. That was Mike of BetIndyCar. Go check him out, as you see on Twitter at Indy_bet. If you do want to win some money, like he said, go check that out for sure. Before we wrap up tonight's episode, let's take a look at the points championship as they sit right now. Again, like I said, this weekend IndyCar is off, but next weekend at Toronto, the following weekend a double-header weekend back at Iowa, rather, and then finishing the month here in Indianapolis at the Indianapolis Road Course. Marcus Ericsson sits as your points leader at this time with 321 points. Second, Will Power, 301 points. Third, Joseph Newgarden, 287 points. In fourth place, reigning champion Alex Palou with 286 points. Next, Pato O'Ward with 256 points. In sixth place, Chip Ganassi driver Scott Dixon, 254 points. Seventh place, Scott McLaughlin, last weekend's winner at Mid-Ohio with 252 points. Alexander Rossi, 229 points. Ninth place currently, Simon Pagenaud, 217 points. And then rounding out the top 10, Colton Herta with 212 points. Just outside the top 10 at number 11, Felix Rosenquist, 208 points. Renus VK, 193 points. 13th, Connor Daly with 188 points. Next, Roman Grosjean with 183 points. Graham Rahal in 15th place with 177 points. Elio Castroneves in 16th position with 160 points. Christian Lundgaard in 17th position with 159 points. Takuma Sato, 149 points. In 19th, David Malukas, who we talked about earlier, with 145 points. And then rounding out the top 20, Jack Harvey, 115 points. Next, Jimmy Johnson with 99 points. Delvin DeFrancesca with 99 points. Kyle Kirkwood with 98 points. Callum Ilott with 97 points. And Tony Kanaan with 78 points. Santino Ferrucci, 71 points. Dalton Kellett with 70 points. Tatina Calderon with 58 points. J.R. Hildebrand with 53 points. Ed Carpenter with 49 points. Juan Pablo Montoya with 44 points. Simone Di Silvestro with 21 points. Marco Andretti with 17 points. Sage Karam with 14 points. And rounding out the point standings, Stefan Wilson with 10 points. So that does it for this week's episode of the Push to Pass podcast. I want to thank Justin Cox of IndyCar Boys podcast for stopping by today. Also want to thank Mike of BetIndyCar. Go check not only Mike but Justin out on social media and give them a follow as well. Also, huge thank you to everyone that is watching or that will watch here in the coming days and weeks. Without you guys, none of this would be possible. For Derik Vance of the Push to Pass podcast, that is it. We will see you about 1 week from now previewing Toronto. Bye-bye, everyone.